Look, almost done it, but everybody is here. Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Local Review Body of 27 March 2017. I can confirm that the meeting has properly been called and is quorate. I would first ask members to appoint a chairman for this meeting.
Oh, David McKee.
Okay. David McKee is appointed as chairman.
Sorry, everybody's here that's supposed to be here. Any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Do you want to take us through the process, Lucy, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that there are 4 notices of review for consideration at this meeting. Item 4, land adjacent to Dalskairth, Dalbeattie Road, Dumfries, refusal of planning permission for erection of Dwellinghouse 16/1215/FUL. I'll take you through the context. We have first a notice of review and the related documents, and these can be found on pages 7 to 16 of the reports. 2, report on handling and related correspondence, and be found on pages 17 to 25. 3, the observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review can be found on pages 27 to 31. 4, planning application form, plans and supporting documents can be found on pages 33 to 45. 5, a decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council, pages 47 to 51. 6, relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan, pages 53 to 162. 7, photos of the application site and the locality, pages 163 to 167. Grounds of refusal on pages 50. And these are that the proposal is contrary to the policy of the Council as stated in Local Development Plan Policy H3 and to national policy as set out in the Scottish Planning Policy, which permit the erection of new houses in the countryside only in special circumstances identified in development plans, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. 2, the proposal is contrary to policies HE1, HE6 and OP2 of the Local Development Plan, in that the design of the proposed dwelling house would have failed to have regard to the character and appearance of the group of buildings and adjacent area of which it would form a part, would harm the setting of the adjoining Category B listed building, and would fail to respect the character and setting of the Dalskairth non-inventory design landscape. B, requested method of determination, page 8. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with by means of further written submissions. C, the grounds stated in the notice of review can be found on pages 7 to 16, and in summary, these are: 1, the applicant is no longer able to maintain Dalskairth, a Category B listed building, which he plans to sell to ensure that it is properly restored. The proposed dwelling house would be on the site of the existing residential accommodation, which was the site of a previous dwelling built in 1926. 2, the proposal meets LDP Policy H3, as the proposal is to replace an existing house of an appropriate scale within the same curtilage. Proposal meets LDP Policy H1, as it would result in the development of a brownfield site and would not prevent or restrict the development of an allocated site, nor is it of a scale to adversely affect the overall development strategy of the plan. 3, the proposal would not conflict with LDP Policy HE6 because the development would not affect any garden layout of the listed building, and the proposal is in line with the aims of LDP Policy OP2. Further comments by interested parties. Comments of appointed officers can be found on pages 29 to 31. And the development plan policies are found on pages 54 to 162. The main issues for the local review body to consider are Does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies in principle, the key policy of which LDP policy H3? Does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies in respect of its siting and design, principally LDP policy OP2 and associated supplementary guidance? Specifically, would the proposal fail to have regard to the character and appearance of the group of buildings and adjacent area of which it would form a part? Does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies in respect of impact on the setting of the listed building and the non-inventory designed landscape, principally LDP policies HE1 and HE6? Specifically, would the proposal harm the setting of the adjoining Category B listed building, and would it fail to respect the land character and setting out of the Dalskairth non-inventory design landscape? If the proposal does not comply with the relevant development plan policies, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted to the contrary? Having outlined the documents within members' pages, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It is confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. The options available to the local review body for this and the following cases today are that it can decide that it has sufficient. The LRB will be required to state precisely the information it is seeking and who must provide it, or resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who will be invited to speak and on what matters, or resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied. This can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would obviously not allow a decision to be made today. Or, if the local review body resolves that it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, then the local review body has the full powers to uphold, reverse, or vary a determination. The decision notice will include a statement of the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case reviewed. A planning advisor is present at your meeting. He is here to assist for both items. It is confirmed that he has not had any involvement in either case and was not the case officer or appointed officer for either application. He is purely here to provide independent advice, as needed, on matters of planning policy, law, or process to the local review body. If members are clear and if no further clarification is required, I will ask the chairman now to lead the debate, and in the first instance to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information for it to make a determination today. The LRB will review and conclude.
Right, thank you very much, Lucy. Right, can we see the pictures for item 4, please, Mr. Duncan?
Yes, certainly, Chair. I'm happy to do that. Just so members are aware, for the avoidance of doubt, these replicate the pictures that appear in black and white in the papers from pages 165 to 167. I haven't been out on the site, so I'm dependent entirely on the pictures I've been given by the case officer. In this case, this is the approach to the application site from the north. This is when you're going from the main road to Dalskairth itself and the timber building, which we'll see in a minute. This is you get closer to the application site from the north. You'll see Dalskairth, that large building on the right-hand side, which, as mentioned previously, is listed. Timber building, this is looking to the southwest across the application site. It shows the existing timber building that's there at the moment. Members might note on page 11 of the applicant's submission, it describes this building as residential accommodation, which was the site of a previous dwelling built in 1926. But when you turn to page 29, the appointed officer's comments, that's disputed and it's not accepted as a dwelling house, and paragraph 1.5 of the appointed officer's comments covers that issue. So there is disagreement over the actual use of this building. That's from the southern boundary of the application site looking north. So that's back to Dalskairth, and you'll
Okay. Section 1, notice of review of refusal of planning permission. That's from page 3 to page 16. Next section, report on handling, page 17 through to page 27.
Chairman, could I ask a question there, please? This is to do with the issue that the officer was raising, which is about the previous house being not a dwelling but a studio. I think have I got that right? That in essence it cannot be considered a dwelling house, and it was actually, and you're saying it was refused at appeal. Is that correct? Could I just have that clarification, please?
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. That's my reading of it. If you look at page 19 of the papers at 1.3, it gives the relevant planning history, and then it quotes the case 14/P/3/0/0576, which was a certificate of lawfulness case for an existing use as a dwelling house, which was refused in the light of insufficient information. It says the planning authority had not been provided at that stage with evidential fact or law to demonstrate that the use of the building as a dwelling house was lawful for planning purposes. There was an appeal against that which was submitted, considered by Scottish ministers and dismissed on 21st of May 2015. There is further discussion on that issue on page 29 of the papers too, in the appointed officer comments, but in the delegated report it covers that. My reading of it is, yes, there wasn't enough information there to demonstrate it was it had lawful use as a dwelling.
Appointed officer, page 28 through to page 32. Planning application forms, page 34 to 46. Okay, no. Number 5, page 47, decision letter from a D&G Council. Page 48 to 52. And relevant extracts from the local development plan. That's page 53 to 162. And the photographs that he's seen on the wall. Okay, based on that, do you consider you've got sufficient information to make a decision? Okay, thank you very much. Anybody, any issues you want to raise on the specific item?
Chair, I don't have any sort of issues to raise. I think the case officer and the officer has made it quite clear why this is out with our policies, and I think we should go with the recommendations on this particular one.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment? Anybody else want to comment? You're all quite happy to go with the recommendations to refuse this application? Okay, thank you very much. Lucy?
And in relation to item 4, members have agreed to refuse the application as per recommendation.
Right, can we move to item 5, page 169, refusal of planning permission in principle for erection of 3 dwelling houses at plot to the rear of Wagner Hotel, Kippford. Planning reference number 16/1011/PIP. Robert, would you like to take us through the photographs, please? Lucia.
And item 5 is a plot to the rear of the Anchor Hotel, Kippford, refusal of planning permission in principle for erection of 3 dwelling houses. And in the contents, we have as follows. 1. A notice of review and related documents, pages 175 to 213. 2. Report and handling and related consultee and representative comments, pages 215 to 229. 3. The observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review, pages 231 to 235. 4. Comments of applicant's agent on observations of the appointed officer, pages 237 to 241. 5. Planning application forms, plans and supporting documents, pages 243 to 287. 6. Decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council, pages 289 to 293. 7. Relevant extracts from Dumfries and Galloway Council Local Development Plan, pages 295 to 442. 8. Photos of the application site and the locality, pages 445 to 448. A. The grounds of refusal, on pages 292. And these are that the proposal is contrary to policy H2 of the Local Development Plan, in that the proposed site would be located out with a natural and established boundary to the village, representing an unacceptable encroachment into the woodland and incremental development with no natural finish point. The continued sprawl of development higher up the hillside and further into the rural woodland landscape would serve to further erode the character and amenity of the locality. The proposal is contrary to policy OP1. It's a satisfactory measure. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of a review of the information provided without any further procedure. C. The grounds stated in the notice of review can be found in pages 175 to 213. And in summary, these are: the site is not located out with the natural and established boundary to the village, as there is not one. The development will create a positive boundary with new planting filling in the gap between the existing houses at Fairhaven and Forest Way. The woodland setting would remain as it is, maintaining the character of the area. There is scope for further tree planting if required. The key trees are located on land adjacent to the site and will not be affected by the development. Very similar developments of new dwelling houses have taken place in woodland in the area around Quarry Road, the area now known as the Nook, and the area now known as the Warren, dating from 1988 to the early 2000s. The application site is being unfairly judged in comparison with the Warren, and the approach by the council is inconsistent. The setting of development within woodland in these areas has the same characteristics as the application site. Kippford has expanded over the years. The applicants find it hard to understand how the removal of forest trees at Kippford Holiday Park can be allowed, whereas this proposal, which with much less impact, has been discouraged. Any containment of the village has long gone with all the recent development that has taken place. The settlement boundary has been removed from the local development plan, so there should not be a constraint on this small edge of settlement development, which can be designed to respect the existing form of the village. The proposed dwelling houses would relate to existing houses in this upper part of the village. The plots form infill sites and are on the same level as Fairhaven, which is accessed from a lane off the main road and the property Forest Way. This proposal would not constitute sprawl higher up the hillside. The proposal respects and indeed falls short of the existing upper building line now that Forest Way's garden has been extended, granted permission in 2008. There is scope within the available site to ensure that the proposal would not adversely affect amenity of the area and the neighbours, and that it would respect the landscape, biodiversity, settlement pattern, local scale and distinctiveness as required by LDP Policy OP1. With regard to LDP Policy OP2, the development designed sensitively would contribute positively to a sense of place and local distinctiveness and would relate well to the local area. The importance of the national and regional scenic area designations are acknowledged and would suggest that as the site has significant similarities to others developed within the wooded parts of Kippford, it can be argued that it would too respect the special qualities in the area. If designed appropriately, it would complement the landscape character and scenic interest. Should the local review body consider that the site is suitable for development, but that a higher specification of access way is required, an upgraded access can be shown as part of a detailed submission. In conclusion, the proposal has been conceived with the character and spirit of Kippford to the fore. It can be designed to fit in with, to enhance and not spoil the current form of development in the village. It can be compared favourably with several other recent developments within woodland in the locality. Sited between two existing houses, it can be argued to be infill development and will not set a precedent for further building in this part of Kippford. The proposal is not on a grand scale. The individual plots are smaller than those existing on either side, or together measure less than the size of an average football pitch. The development will provide modest and welcome housing, suitable for 1 year-round accommodation, thus supporting local facilities. Further comments by interested parties. Comments of the appointed officer are on pages 233 to 235. Further comments of the applicant and observations of the appointed officer and objector are on pages 239 to 241. The development plan policies are contained on pages 297 to 442. The main issues for the local review body to consider are as follows. Would the proposal confirm with the relevant development plan policies in principle, particularly LDP policy H2? Would the proposal represent incremental development? Would the proposal serve to further erode the character and amenity of the locality? Would the proposal to conform to LDP policy OP1 in terms of access requirements, given that a satisfactory means of vehicular access to serve the development is not considered to exist? Alternatively, it has been demonstrated that the existing network of private ways be improved to an acceptable standard. If the proposal does not comply with the terms of the relevant development plan policies, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should have been granted to the country as an exception to policy? Having outlined the documents within members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It is confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. If members are clear and if no further clarification is required, I will ask the Chairman to now lead the debate and in the first instance to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information before it makes a determination today.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Just take your time. Right, can we move to notice of review, page 173 to 214? Oh, sorry. Should have got the photographs going first. Could you do that, please?
Thanks, Chairman. Quite happy to show the photographs just now if that helps. I mean, similarly to last time, I've been provided with these pictures by the appointed officer together with the captions. I haven't been out and done the site visit myself, but the pictures you will see replicate those in pages 445 to 448 of the papers in front of you. So going through them, the first slide is showing Pines Road, where it meets the track leading to the application site. So the red dotted line you have, if I can work the pointer, which I don't seem to be able to do, but the red dotted line you see on the left-hand side there is leading to the application site, so through the trees there. Then that's another view, obviously perpendicular to the tarmac track, and that's looking towards the application site itself. And then a further continuation leading to the application site. And that's now looking westward, so that's across the application site. So it's obviously got a wooded nature to it, as you can see in the picture. This is panning right from the same viewpoint, panning right across a restocked woodland area. So it's giving you an idea of the characteristics of that site. And this is a completely different viewpoint. This is obviously from the slipway at Kippford, and it's looking east, so in the opposite direction towards the application site, beyond the trees that you can see on the skyline there. And this is when they're in leaf, so I'm assuming this was taken summertime last year at some point. And again, this is looking east, much closer to the houses now. Houses to the rear of the Anchor Hotel with a steep slope you can see there, disguised by those trees, and the woodland behind forming a boundary and backdrop to the village, the application site beyond it. So that's closer in on the right hand side of this picture, I believe. You've got these houses. This is a longer distance view. It's looking south from the yacht club across Kippford, so you can see the arrowed area is the approximate extent of the application site as you would see it on the horizon. But obviously that's got tree cover there at the moment. And you've got the Anchor Hotel, which is marked out by that black arrow, just to give you an indication of where the application site lies in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Duncan. Anybody, any questions on the item 1? The notice of review. A report on handling, page 217 to page 230. Councillor Maitland.
Yeah, I've got a question about the access. I mean, are we saying that if there were two houses, that this would be acceptable? Or are we simply saying that that a forest track with access without actually ownership is something that couldn't be accepted? I mean, I know we're dealing with what we've got here at the moment, but I need to sort of understand what the issue is with the objection from the roads people. I've got another question after that, if I could.
My reference point in answering this, Chair, is on page 221 of the papers. So in the delegated report, 4.10, it says access to the application site is intended to be taken from Pine Road, as you saw in the pictures, a private road via an informal, narrow, rough grass track through trees and a recently replanted area of woodland. However, this proposed means of access lies out with the application site and also out with the ownership of the applicant. Only a right of access over this land exists. The existing track is only suitable for pedestrian or possibly four-wheel drive all-terrain vehicles and would require significant upgrading to provide a suitable means of access for the proposed development. And then it says the site is otherwise landlocked and therefore remote from any existing public or private road, and as such no other satisfactory means of access has been identified. As a result, the site cannot be satisfactorily accessed. Then you have COB standard. Certainly the access as envisaged at the moment wouldn't be able to be constructed to adoptable standard. If it was less than 3 houses, it sounds like you could have an access, but certainly not to an adoptable standard by using the track. But it sounds like it would be very difficult because there's only a right of access to even upgrade that track at all to allow a vehicle to access it.
Councillor Maitland.
Thank you very much. That is helpful. And I also want to ask about, I mean, I am assuming that the recommended decision is given 2 grounds for to require that we refuse this application. We don't need both.
Chair, it's entirely up to the local review body, which decisions you decide to arrive at. If you're minded to, you can uphold the appointed officer's decision, which is 2 reasons to refuse it, but equally you can vary that decision, so you can change the decision. So although there are 2 reasons, you could equally just uphold one of those reasons. You could uphold both. You could change the reasons entirely, if you felt that was right, or you could indeed reverse the decision that was taken. It's entirely at the discretion of the local review body.
There's also an objection in the principle of development, but it's on about the water supply and foul drainage in that area where the water pressure is pretty low, and SEPA hasn't, or the Scottish Water haven't addressed that issue, and there's surface water drainage where water will be running down the hill from any new build, which can impact obviously on what's already there. Anybody else want to comment? Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks. Just a bit of clarification for Robert here, because at 4.14 they're telling us not a material consideration, yet they're telling us if we're minded to overturn this or change this, then it does become a material consideration. It's either is a material consideration or it's not.
The way I'm reading that is the existing problem, if you like, the background situation isn't a material consideration, it's how the proposed development reacts with that. So if the proposed development exacerbates an existing problem, then you need to deal with that. So that is a material consideration. That's the way I'm reading it, the way it's been written. It says any existing problem is not a material consideration in the assessment of this application. However, it must be demonstrated that the proposed development would not exacerbate an existing problem. So if you can demonstrate basically that the situation is not going to get worse, or the development would result in a betterment, then that's something you would take into account.
So in actual fact, then we could, if we were so minded, actually if we were minded to change, put a condition in that it would only be as long as it improved the drainage situation in that area, not made it worse.
It would be within your gift to do that, yes.
On 1.4, on page 234, it says it's suggested by the applicant that no woodland would need to be removed to facilitate development. However, this is only on the basis that this area established woodland was clear felled in 2010 and the decision was taken not to restock. Is that then not a matter of fact rather as a suggestion? Because it's already been cleared of wood. We have to make decisions on these things, and got to be on fact rather than suggestions. So therefore, it is fact that there's no woodland needs to be taken away.
It's on the same issue, Joe. It's the trees, the more mature trees surrounding it, or is that the natural state of the forest?
To me, it looks, to my eye, the deciduous woodland there looks like a kind of ancient type of woodland, natural woodland, but I can't say for certain.
Sorry, I suppose that could be made out to be at the edge of the site, because they're showing a site with a cleared area there.
Sorry, folks, they weren't indigenous to this country. They've been brought in here for harvesting. So I'm just trying to find out exactly what the history of that place is, because that should be probably what we're basing this any decision on, rather than what's there just now.
To me, that would appear to be supports for new growth. The white pillars.
No, to the right on the skyline, they're pines.
Chair, if it's at all helpful, there is a submitted plan which was part of the application. It appears in page 283 of your papers. And what that does is from Asher Associates, you've got the application site and you've got the indicative layout with proposed house 1, 2 and 3. And then next to it you've got area B and area C, with area B being mixed deciduous woodland, and then area A, broadleaf saplings, gorse brambles, etc., etc. And you've got the planning application boundary mark there on it, so it gives you an idea of where that planning application boundary is relative to the other land. And my reading of that is, you know, you've got that natural woodland next to that actual application site. So the site itself is the area you can see, and it refers to the woodland felling and the clearing earlier in the papers. So I don't think there's much doubt that the established woodland that you see, the natural woodland, is adjacent to the application site.
Observation of appointed officer, page 233 to 238, please. Sorry about that. Comments and applicant's agent, and observation of appointed officer, page 237 to page 242.
Okay, I'm just looking at the infill development part at page 239, down near the second bottom paragraph. I would suppose it's a reasonable question they're asking is why is it okay for one part of Kippford to be like that, but yet not another area? Viewed from either side, it does not appear to be separate, as is between Forestway and Fairham, whilst viewed from the front it is virtually invisible. Yet it's the bit about here, the boundary line formed by the houses behind the anchor is fairly haphazard, so why is a more consistent line drawn between Forestway and Fairham not recognised as acceptable? I mean, why is it not recognised as acceptable? If there's a natural boundary there, I think it's a bit unfair asking Robert, but it's a
I think part of the problem is there doesn't seem there's different ideas on what's an identifiable boundary. There's somebody in here who indicates that the Drystain Dyke is an identifiable boundary. But Robert, could you comment on that, please?
What I would say about that, I think what might be quite useful in considering the point they're making is to look at the plan that's on page 285. Now, the two properties that are mentioned are Forest Way and Fair Haven. So if you look at the drawing, slightly just above halfway up, you've got Forest Way, which is marked there next to, I think it's Cuckoo's Stone it's called. It's not totally clear, but you've got those properties there. And then you've got the application site going north to south broadly. And then you've got Fair Haven at the bottom. So the question being posed is, well, why not just infill that area? You know, there have been plots built, you know, there's quite a bit of planning history in Kippford, so why not infill that area? You know, that's the question. You might want to have a think about that. There's obviously been a range of planning applications granted over the years within Kippford. But that's the point that's being made. Why not basically infill within that area?
I suppose following on for that is, would you consider that an infill site, given that there's trees there and they've been cleared, would you consider it an infill site for housing, suitable for housing? I would have thought that might be the way to look at it. But we'll come to that now if you've no issues on previous section 5, plan application form, page 243 to page 288.
On that particular map, because I'm looking at this and taking into consideration the roads issue with that, and then I see just north of Cuckoo Pines Road. Is that the entrance to Cuckoo and Forest Way? Is that the, I would imagine, adoptable standard road for there?
That's the way I'm reading it, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it said that it'd be, what, 250 metres to upgrade to adoptable standard. Anybody else, any questions on that section? Item 6, page 289, decision letter. To page 294. Section 7, relevant extracts from the local development plan. Then you've got photographs. I think the first photograph actually, Mr. Councillor Dryborough indicates where he come off the Pines Road and go through the track through the woods. The broken line there, red broken line. And below that you've got the track that leads to the application site. So, anybody any questions? You consider that you've got sufficient evidence in front of you to be able to make a decision?
I think we have, Chair, if it, you know, if it wasn't for the roads issue, I would probably be saying let's go for a site visit, but it's clear there's an issue with roads and the entrance to the site, so therefore I think we need to go with the recommendations from the officer.
Councillor Maitland?
Well, I would absolutely agree with that. In fact, I think the photographs that we saw quite clear that what's important about Kippford is that it is backdropped by woodlands, and that's what, to my mind, actually encloses the settlement. And it's not a hard line, obviously, but it's what the eye tells you is the enclosure of the area. So I actually absolutely agree with the officers, and I'm happy to go along with my colleagues' consideration.
Councillor Ferguson?
Well, it was interesting to hear Archie saying there that he thought about a site visit, because I'd kind of whispered that to Jane, because looking at what we're seeing there, you can't see anything from Kippford. Now, and it's the roads issue, I think, was the bit, because the trees will still be there. The houses will be the other side of that line of trees, in between that and the next lot of trees. So why would that affect the view of the vision of the village of Kippford? So I actually think this is one occasion when we should go and have a look. And if I get support for that, then fine. I just don't think it was safe for me to make a decision here today without actually seeing it on site.
Chair, if I can come back in there, I mean, the issue for me was actually the road itself, actually to the site. It's not in ownership of the land. It isn't up to a standard. Where, as I mentioned, the other road going in was to an adoptable standard. That's the issue for me. If it wasn't for that, I would have suggested a site visit. But however, that's not there, so therefore we'll just go to the recommendations.
Thank you. I think for what Councillor Maitland said as well, that you could argue that you're starting a development back of Kippford. It's outside the sight lines in Kippford. And you know the backdrop to Kippford's the trees on the hills. But so are you recommending refusal? Okay.
Agreed.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Ferguson? You want to state your objections?
I'm just worried here about consistency here. We've been in site visits as a planning authority. I don't know if it's a slightly different body, but where you had to be a mountain goat to get to them. There was no roads to get to them. And we went and had a look at sites because the roads that we would put in after planning permission had been awarded or not. And I'm actually, that's what I'm saying, coming back here, is if there's any remote way at all we can have a look at this, I would be much happier. Otherwise, I'm not sure what I can do here because I don't think we should just dismiss it out of hand. I think it needs to be looked at. So.
And in relation to item 5, the erection of 3 dwelling houses, plot of land to the rear of the Anchor Hotel, Kippford, Members have agreed to uphold the officer's recommendation, and that is to refuse permission.
Thank you, Lucy. Can we move to item 6? Refusal of planning permission for formation of box dormer extension on rear of Dwellinghouse 5 Glen Road, Palnackie, Castle Douglas. Planning reference number 16/1372/FUL. Lucy?
And item 6, the contents for you are as follows. A notice of review and related documents found on pages 455 to 461. The report and handling and related consultee and representative comments on pages 463 to 467. 3. Observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review can be found on pages 469 to 471. 4. Planning application form, plans and supporting documents can be found on pages 473 to 489. 5. The decision of notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council can be found on pages 491 to 495. 6. Relevant extracts from Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Review Plan can be found on pages 497 to 512. 7. Photo of the application site and the locality can be found on pages 513 to 516. Grounds of refusal are on pages 494, and they are: 1. The massing, scale and design of the form of the dormer fails to preserve or enhance the scale and character of the existing dwelling house and would be contrary to Dumfries and Galloway Council Local Development Plan Policy H8 and supplementary guidance, alterations and extension to houses. B. Requested method of determination is on page 458. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with by means of an inspection of the land which is subject of the review. C. The grounds stated in the notice of review can be found on pages 455 to 461. In summary, they are: the dormer is located at the rear of the property and is not visible from Glen Road, and therefore does not affect the character of the street scene. The ridge height of the roof remains the same and the wall head is unaffected. The size, location and style of the windows are in keeping with the existing. The flat roof and its location is a result of the limited headroom in the existing roof space. The privacy of neighbours is unaffected as the building has existing dormer windows. The existing stair to the attic does not comply with building regulations, therefore the attic rooms cannot be used as bedrooms. The only way to fully appreciate this would be an interior viewing of the property. The design of the new stair partially determines the scale and location of the new dormer. D. Further comments by interested parties. Comments of appointed officer are on page 471. E. Development plan policies are on pages 499 to 512. The main issues for the local review body to consider are as follows. Does the proposal conform the development plan, and critically in this respect, does it comply with LDP policy H8 and the associated supplementary guidance, alterations and extensions to houses? In particular, would the massing, scale and design of the proposed dormer preserve and or enhance the scale and character of the existing dwelling house? If the proposal does not conform with the relevant development plan policy and supplementary guidance, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted as an exception to policy? Having outlined the documents within members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It is confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. If members are clear and if no further clarification is required, I will ask the chairman now to lead the debate and in the first instance to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information for it to make a determination today. LRB review and conclude.
Thank you, Lucy. Mr. Duncan, to see the photographs, please.
Thank you, Chair, certainly. Again, these have been supplied by the appointed officer, so I haven't been out on site myself. You can see the property here, the one in the foreground. You've got the proposed dormer, sorry, the proposed single dormer rather, would be in the rear elevation where you can see the two existing dormer windows at the moment. So two fairly small dormers at the moment. The plans in relation to this case are on pages 479 to 489 in the papers. So what you're looking at, probably the best elevational plan when you're looking at it, is shown on, let me just get this one right, page 487. If you look at the southwest elevation rear, it shows quite a large box dormer style arrangement. So that's what's proposed in the rear elevation. So that's on page 487. Just as a reference point when we're going through this. This is a longer distance view. The property's through the gap, if you like, so it's the distant view of the rear roof slope. This is taken from Port Road in Palnackie. So again, you can see the existing pair of dormer windows on the rear roof slope of that property. And you've got a slightly zoomed in view from the same vantage point. It's also worth pointing out the applicant's agent has submitted in page 461 of the papers, and I don't have slides of these, but there are black and white pictures showing the interior of the building. So this is in the attic story. You've got two full stories beneath this, but then you've got the attic story showing the stairwell and the arrangement within the attic rooms as well. So the headroom is very limited there, and that's shown in the pictures you see in front of you there, just to give you the overall view.
Okay, can we go to the notice of review, page 451 to page 462?
I'm not sure if it's the right place to be asking this, but I'm looking at the two colour pictures on page 461, the top one in particular. I've got colour in mine, yeah. I've got a special report. I've got a special report here. Don't ask me how. But hey, what I'm trying to work out here is there's two dormers just now. Am I right? Where are the two dormers? Because I couldn't see any window recess in this picture.
Just on the top picture, above the chair, there's a slightly dark, at the top corner of the picture, there's a slightly dark line there, which could be the dormer.
No, really, because that's at the wrong angle. If my engineering drawing higher still stands weight.
Well, I'm not an engineer, so
absolutely.
I don't know.
So, because it's at the wrong angle, that would suggest it was a flat roof dormer rather than a dormer going out. That would suggest a flat window there as opposed to something going out. But it might just be the colour. Maybe a red herring. We'll come to that later.
It's maybe the colour of the decoration, right enough. But that could be the inside edge of the dormer, right?
Well, it goes that way though.
Yeah,
No.
aye, but the inside edge where it meets comes into the inside roof, the roof on the room. Anybody else any comments on it? No?
No.
Report on handling, page 463 to 468.
Just one for Robert, if you don't mind, Chair. See at 1.2, if there's no known planning history for the application site, that means the two dormers have been there since it was built. Would that be right? Or there since before planning permission became a legal requirement? Is that a fair assumption?
the dormers look original to the house when it was built, and the house predates the planning system. Yeah, absolutely. On the point about the dormer windows and the interior pictures, I'm looking at the plan on page 485, which shows the existing cross sections, and it shows the attic rooms. So I think Councillor McKee's right. I think the chair's right. On the left-hand side, you've got that cutout on the tongue and groove boarding, the kind of timber lining on it. And I think they're on the left-hand side, just as a kind of cutout to that.
A black and white picture might have been better. Again, we go to item 3, observation of the appointed officer, page 469 to page 472. Planning application forms, page 473 to 490. Decision letter from Council dated 18th of November, 492 to 496. Relevant extracts from the LDP, page 498 to 512. And you've got the photos of the application site. Do you consider that you've got sufficient evidence in front of you, sufficient information in front of you to make a decision? Okay. Is there anybody any questions you want to ask? Quite happy with the information you've got. Are you happy to go with the recommendations from the application papers? Okay, thank you very much. Agreed, Lucy.
And I can confirm in relation to item 6, permission of box dormer extension and rear of Dwellinghouse, 5 Glen Road, Palnackie, Castle Douglas. Members have agreed to uphold the officer's decision, and that is to refuse permission.
We might now move to item 7, notice of review. Condition 1 of planning permission for change of use of land from public landscaping to domestic garden ground and erection of fence at 11 Haining Avenue, Dumfries. Planning reference number 16/1327/FUL.
And the contents before you today are as follows. 1. Notice of review and related documents can be found on pages 523 to 527. 2. The report and handling and related consultee and representative comments can be found on pages 529 to 536. 3. The observations of the appointed officer and the applicant's notice of review can be found on pages 537 to 541. 4. The planning application form, plans and supporting documents can be found on pages 543 to 561. 5. The decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council can be found on pages 563 to 571. 6. Relevant extracts from Dumfries and Galloway Council Local Development Plan found on 573 to 635. 7. Photos of the application site and the locality can be found on pages 637 to 640. Decision notice, including wording of condition 1, can be found on pages 565 to 571. And that is that notwithstanding the approved plans, the amended boundary of the curtilage of the dwelling house should be marked with a wall constructed from facing brick to match the existing dwelling. No development in respect of this planning permission shall take place unless specification of the colour and type of brick has been submitted to been approved in writing by the council as planning full authority. The reason is, in order to define the terms of this permission and in order to preserve the residential amenity of adjacent properties. B. The requested method of determination is found on page 524. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of 1. One or more hearing sessions, and 2. A site inspection. Grounds stated in notice of review can be found on pages 523 to 527. And in summary, these are: a prominent brick wall would greatly change the look of the site development. Moreover, it would cost more than just moving the existing fence. The applicant no longer thinks that the wall is at all appropriate and does not want the building of a wall. This condition was accepted for fear that the application would otherwise be rejected. The applicant does not understand the rationale in changing an existing fence with a brick wall, and it would entirely change the dwelling. D. Further comments by interested parties. Comments of the appointed officer are found on pages 539 to 541. The development plan policies are found on pages 575 to 636. The main issues for the local review body to consider are as follows. Would the proposal to delete the condition fail to preserve the residential amenity of adjacent properties? Would building a fence instead of the wall specified in the condition on the edge of the expanded garden area adversely affect the existing standard of visual amenity at a prominent position in the street scene? Would the proposal fail to accord with the terms of LDP policy OP2? Would the proposal fail to accord with the supplementary guidance document, Design Quality of New Development, particularly the guidance that appears on page 595 of these papers regarding boundary treatment? In the event that the LRB are minded to uphold the decision of the appointed officer, are the LRB also minded to change the description of the development? If the proposed deletion of condition 1 is not considered to accord with the terms of the development plan, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted and is an exception to policy? Having outlined the documents within members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It is confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. If members are clear and if no further clarification is required, I will ask the chairman now to lead the debate and in the first instance to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information before it to make a determination today. LRB review and conclude.
Thank you, Lucy. Can we see the photograph, please?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Just for the avoidance of doubt, this notice of review, slightly unusually, it's not in relation to a refusal, it's in relation to a condition imposed. There's only one condition on the planning permission, so it's in relation to condition 1, and the applicant has clearly indicated they want to erect a fence, not a wall. So that's what the notice is in reference to. So moving to the pictures, this is a view towards Haining Close from Haining Avenue. 11 Haining Avenue is on the right-hand side. So the boundary in question is the landscape boundary on the right-hand side. You can see the weathered screen fence. It's timber at the moment. You can just see that on the right-hand side in the middle ground. Yep. Yes. I think it's a wall. And then you've got another view of the same area of fence with the area of public landscaping in front. So this is the strip of land in front of the timber fence, public landscaping, and that's what the planning application relates to. It's a change of use of land to increase the garden area, to take in that area of public landscaping, and the question is, what should that boundary treatment be, a fence or a wall, essentially? The conditions stipulating a wall, the applicants indicated they don't want that condition, they want that condition overturned. This is the view looking towards Haining Avenue from Haining Close. The mature shrubs in this photograph would form part of the curtilage of 11 Haining Avenue, just for the avoidance of doubt. Coincidentally, I'm not sure if any of you spotted this, but if you look at page 595 of your papers, at the foot of that supplementary guidance document, there's a remarkably similar image. So that's on page 18 of the Design Quality of New Development Supplementary Guidance. This is obviously coincidental, but it was picked out as a good example of landscaping. Short element of fencing which has been softened by landscaping appeared in our own supplementary guidance. It was spotted by the appointed officer before today, so I thought I would mention that. It's just coincidence. And the question arose, Councillor Dryborough, this is a view showing the brick wall that forms the rear boundary of 31 Haining Avenue. So yeah, absolutely, that's a brick wall there that you can see in the distance.
There was a picture somewhere, I thought, where it looked as if, as the wall, there's a curve, see that curve at the edge of the grass? Is the wall to come to that curve, or is it to line up with the side of the house?
My understanding of the application, that the submitted plans are in pages 557 to 561, so I'm fairly sure that the extended garden area comes to the line to the left-hand side of that green service strip. The plan that shows it best is the one on page 561. Yes, that's right. It's a fairly small strip of land, but it's taken it no further than that. So it's the landscaped area at the moment is the area that would become part of the garden ground. Yeah, it's out to that curb line. Yeah.
So it's got to be stepped back into the house. Councillor Ferguson?
So I'm picking up right there, Robert. The bushes and that will all be behind a wall. So, okay, well, we're not in the session yet, but I'm just looking at the common sense of this. But right, okay, right, fine. So basically, what you're saying is the edge of the grass that's been cut. That is where the wall will go down, which is a good metre out from the house. And then have to go back in again when it comes to the house. Is that right, Robert?
Page 561, I think, and if you follow the black line, that'll be the step back in.
Chair, for the avoidance of doubt. That's right. For the avoidance of doubt, the applications for a change of use of that land from public landscaping to domestic garden ground. What's in question here is condition 1, which stipulates a wall to bound that extended area of garden ground, and the applicant would rather that was a fence. It feels it's unfair for it to be a wall, so he's seeking a change to condition 1 of that permission, but the permission's been granted to change that area of land from public landscaping to domestic garden. So the notice of reviews in respect of the condition.
Thanks. So, and what height is that wall to be? So it could have a 4 brick high wall down that grass verge and leave everything else as is, and it would be complying because the fence will still be legal, all right? Because it's inside the curtilage of his land. No. It's an answer for everybody. Right? What I'm saying is, if we need to build a brick wall, right? If the man needs to build a brick wall, or it has to be down that line or the end of the grass. So the bushes and everything back the way can stay as they are, and it doesn't have to be any different. There's no stipulation of height. Where's the common sense in this? Is what I'm coming to. None.
Well, I think at the end of the day, he doesn't have to build a wall. He's wanting to extend his garden, so he needs to move the fence. If he wants to do that, the recommendation is the planning application is that he builds a wall. and move the fence and build the wall. It's up to him what he does with the bushes. Sorry, there's a letter from the applicant, page 527, where it's indicating that building a wall would be too expensive for him.
Was it no initial part of the planning permission to build it that should be a brick wall down there? Why is it being imposed now? It should have been there from day one by the builder before they got a completion certificate.
I mean, Chair, for the avoidance of doubt, I've got no idea what the original stipulation was for that boundary treatment. I can only assume, looking at it, that it was approved as a timber fence with landscaping in front, because it's been held up as a good example of landscape design. So I'm assuming that was actually approved like that. The question is, what is required now for a boundary treatment? Do you go for the timber fence by condition, or do you go for the wall, or indeed, as within your power, do you go for something different? It's within your power to vary the terms of that condition if you wish to do so.
I'm not wanting to drag this out, but I'm just trying to get my head around this, because if there is no condition, didn't you have a wall? Where did we get the condition to have a wall? Who decided it should be a wall?
Well, the planning officer, given the layout there, the layout there is considered appropriate, but he's wanting to change it, and the planning officer has considered what the change is going to be, and considers that a wall would be more appropriate than a wooden fence along the curtilage of the pavement.
Chairman, I think, should we get to the end of the and then come back and talk about it?
Oh, that's fine. I'm quite happy to do that. It's a case of going through it. If you've got questions, we'll discuss them. I can come back to them. That's fine. Part 2, report on handling, 529 to 536.
Can we go on to that? It's the if you're on 539, are you? You're on 539. Well, 536. I was paying attention.
No, if there's any questions on that section, we'll move to section 3, observation of the appointed officer and the applicant's notice of review. That's page 538 to page 542. Councillor Maitland?
Thank you, Chairman. That's the bit that I was going to say. I think the answer to the question is the suggestion is that you're balancing the loss of public landscaping as a result of proposed development could be mitigated by adopting a more formal approach. The idea, if I've got this right, with respect to our policies, is that they're suggesting that the brick wall would look more to do with the building and the hard landscaping. So it would look more part and parcel of the structures as opposed to a fencing treatment. I mean, almost to the extent that in the old days you would have stuck an urn on the corner, if you know what I mean. That's what it was all about, so it looked part of the building. I think that's, if I've got that right, that's what's being looked at here. But I will come back to that maybe when we get to the policies section. Thank you.
These strips of land in every estate in Dumfries, who's responsible for looking after those strips of land with the plants on them?
It'll be the owner of the property, the grass birds will be responsibility.
I won't be there.
The grass birds will be the responsibility of the developer, I would have thought. But the garden area there will be the responsibility of
Well, if you walk around your ward, you tell me who looks after the ones there.
Sorry?
You have a walk around Barnhill and tell me who looks after those.
Can we get back to the planning application, please? Section 4, planning application form, page 543 to page 562. Decision letter from the council, date 16th of December, page 564, page 572. Okay. Relevant extracts from the local development plan, page 573, page 636. And you've got the photos of the application site. Do you consider that you have sufficient information in front of you to make a decision? Okay, thank you very much. Do any questions? Councillor Maitland, do you want?
Oh, I've gone back to our policies, you know, in actual fact, looking at this particular example. Well, it was 595 rather, 595, with the sort of fence which we would be making around it up above, because I take it that there would not be any softening. That's not proposed. There is no softening on the other side. It would just be the fence. So you'd have the grass and the fence. That is the effect that would be. Sorry, grass and the wall.
If you could bring that photograph up
the grass
again.
and the wall. Sorry? The fence would be the boundary. The grass and the wall, yes.
Well, I think...
Now, if you imagine, I mean, what you've got to imagine is taking that fence right across and then all the way down and then back in. So you have it coming out, going down and then back in. So what you have is a yard. You know, you don't have an architectural design effort to make this place look nice. That's what the officer's trying to do. We're being told we've got to take away that structural planting, which makes it softer and is considered actually to be a good example. So if we're being asked to take that away, then you've got to think to yourself, what's that actually going to look like? And I think it's going to look like a backyard with a fence, which after time might not look just as smart as it does now. There is always that possibility. Whereas with a wall, you will get the same colour as that wall there coming out and along, which looks more architectural. That's how I read this, if that's what I think is being asked for. And it's what I might expect as you go further down, as opposed to just a fence.
Well, the reason I brought that picture up is you see the hedge put along beside the house. If the wall was taken straight along the same distance from the curb as the house, then that's what could be put in. If they step the wall out to the curb, it's just got to be the wall alongside the pavement.
So, Chair, then just come up because, you know, this was obviously built like this before it was bought. The applicant wanted to buy that wee bit of ground, bought it, and then said, you know, you need to soften it. Now you get paints for fences that soften things. You get your different colour paints. We've had planning applications where we put conditions on that actually there has to be a certain colour or a resemblance of a colour on a fence. And I think there's a bit of I think Andy said common sense, but I would say a bit of leeway have to be given here to the applicant, I think. And I would be suggesting that on this particular one, it's, when you look at that page 595, you saw the low-growing shrubs, and you know the applicant's photographs are the higher growth, when they're more mature and things like that. But you have to take into consideration, of course, what Councillor Groom says with regards animals and what they do, home pets and things like that. I would suggest that it would be appropriate to extend that fence down there and soften it with coloured painting. Now, we have had conditions, as I said before, in planning applications where the paint has been discussed or the colouring of whatever has been discussed. And I think that would be more appropriate to this one. Bring the fence out to the edge of the grassed area, down to the side of the house, and the paint colour, coloured, I am more than certain you would get a colour that would fit with those red bricks.
Councillor Ferguson?
Okay, just a couple of things. I can't see how a 6 foot high brick wall has got architectural significance. It's a wall, right? Archie's right about paint, but a fence also allows other things to grow through to soften the impact and extend the garden out to the full extent of the property. I do it with my house next, my neighbours next door, we share now, at this time of year especially, absolutely beautiful plants that we both can enjoy. So there is a potential there, I would suggest. And if Archie was moving to allow this to go through the way the applicant wants, I'd be happy saying that.
There's no mention in the application or in the papers of the height of the wall, is there?
It's a 2 metre standard fence at the back and side of a house. That's just a normal sort of standard setting here. I'm quite happy to propose that we go and allow this to happen and make sure that there is a condition in that the colouring of the fence is similar to that of the brick.
The issue with the height could be with the height of the fence, given there's a road junction there. It should be no more than, was it 1.2 metres or something?
The expert here, but there's a restriction on height of a fence anyway before it requires.
The side of a house, that's to the frontage of the house, in the back is 2 metres. Beyond that is 1 metre.
What we're saying was where, when it comes to a road junction, it should be down to 1.2 metres, so that the visibility display is such that there will be no incidents with cars driving out. On a corner like that, you can only build to a certain height. Got the floor.
Thanks, Chair. It's obviously for the local review body to vary this condition as you see fit. My observation about the condition is it doesn't specify the height of the wall, and I think that is quite a serious omission. Notwithstanding that, reading this, it's clear that that timber fence is 1.8 metres high. Equally, it's clear to me there's no issue if any replacement fence or wall is 1.8 metres high in the changed position. It's not going to create a road traffic issue there at all, public safety issue, it'll be fine. The only other thing about the existing condition, it doesn't include a timescale for implementation of the boundary treatment either. So though it does stipulate a wall and it does stipulate a colour, it doesn't say when it's to be done. I would suggest you might want to think that that should require to be done before the extended garden area is brought into use, just so you've got a belt and braces way of making sure it's done. But they will find a way of securing their boundary. You could require it to be stained in a recessive dark green colour or something like that, but you would need to be quite definite about that, so it could be enforced over time. Or if you wanted it a brick colour, I suppose you could do it a brick colour. The exact type and colour of what shall be agreed in writing is probably the best way of doing that. But you will unfortunately need to have a look at trying to draft the condition if you're minded to vary it.
Sorry, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you. Robert, why is there a drop curb there?
The curb's not continued along, it's a grass.
No. Why is there a drop curb? The drop curb's usually there for a purpose.
Oh, so anybody with primary.
No, I'm asking the officer, Job. We respect. I'm asking the officer.
Okay.
Because normally there'd be a reason for the drop curb. I think what I'm worried about is that was it there for an access into the back of the house?
I think it's to help wheelchair users.
Chair, can we come back to the actual? I think we allow the fence to be built. It's to be of a red stained brick colour. It's 1.8 metres high, and the colour to be agreed with officers and planning committee.
Do you consider it 1.8 metres at the road junction? That'll be okay. I think so, okay. Councillor Maitland?
I can't put my hand to that. I mean, can you imagine? No, I'm afraid I think, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go along with the original brick wall. That's right, to go with the original condition. To be honest, what would have been wonderful if we could have had a low brick wall with a hedge above it. That might have been softened everything and got round everything, but we're not offered that here. So I am going to go with the original condition, substituting the word wall for fence, which I think I had to do, and to specify that it should not be more than 1.8 metres high in total. And I move so.
Anybody in agreement with that proposal? Councillor Ferguson, you seem to be hesitating there.
No, but I think we need some clarification in the LDP because of that is going to be the modern. Sorry, have we got a decision here? Because the exemplary good practice in the LDP looks remarkably similar at this location, and if we're having to do this as an exception, then why is it an exemplar in the LDP? But that's not for here today, but for Robert to take back.
Although it's in the LDP, the owner of the house wishes to move the fence.
Oh, sorry, the latest LDP thing we're working on just now, that's actually recognised. So it's either an exemplary good practice or it's not. Because if the recommendations are good, we've got to have this again, because we're doing this as an exception to that today, I would suggest, rather than going with policy. This is an exception to what the officers are saying and their interpretation of the policy.
What I'm reading today is the existing situation before the case officer looked at this was that you had something that was in the guidance, the design guidance as an exemplar of screen fencing and landscaping, public landscaping, to try and mitigate that or soften it, if you like, is probably the best word. And a successful example of that, the application is obviously to extend the garden area. Case officer supported that, but in light of the fact you were losing this good feature, she was minded to include a formal brick wall, which she felt was reasonable mitigation, a suitable alternative to this, if you like. In not doing that and going for the stained timber screen fence, what you're doing in effect is saying you feel that that is a suitable alternative to the non-stained timber fence with landscaping that's soft in that way. So you're thinking that this is a suitable alternative to what you've got at the moment as an exception to policy. And then it's just a case, obviously, of wording the condition that you want to see imposed instead of the one that's there.
I long to hear, what is the condition?
Chair, it's just in terms of condition one, you have an existing condition one. The applicant is seeking to change that condition one to allow him to build a fence. From what I'm hearing is you're comfortable with the fence, but you want it stained in a colour to be agreed in writing. I think is it a brick colour you were looking for. So it's really just to try and get a form of words, and you're also looking for a height of that fence to be 1.8 metres above ground level.
Sorry. There. Maximum 1.8 metres high. Colour to be agreed with planning authority. Mainly brick coloured, stained fencing panels. And so moved, Chair.
That's fine. I don't think I've received a seconder, so I want my dissent recorded, please.
Okay, Lucy, see to that, please. Anybody else any comments to make? Right, we've agreed.
And in relation to item 7, change of use of land from public landscaping to domestic garden ground and erection of fence at 11 Haining Avenue, Dumfries. Members have agreed to overturn officers' recommendations and instead have imposed the following conditions: that the fence, that must be a fence and it must be max 1.8 metres high and stained with a colour as agreed by officers of the planning committee and in keeping with the original brickwork of the house.
Everybody in agreement with that? Great, okay. Thank you very much. I have no other business. You may now go and bask in the sunshine. Thank you. Thank you for attending.